Eugene Monroe, former Cav, now a former Raven, and ultimately a former NFL player, decides to retire at only age 29, and he joins us now on Tiki and Tierney here on CBS Sports Radio. Eugene, good to chat with you again.
Hey, what's going on? Good morning.
Good morning, man. You wrote this piece for the Players Tribune, Leaving the Game I Love, and as I read through it, you talk about one of the more memorable experiences that all of us had as young football players, and that would be Bull in the Ring, where you get in the center of a circle and you basically just jack up your teammates. And what you said is exactly what I felt. I felt dizzy and disoriented, and you're like 12 years old, not knowing that you have a concussion. How worried were you then versus now about this?
Back then, I had no idea. Back then, I thought that I took the hits and I was having fun. And, even though we experienced concussions, we love the game and it's exciting. But I didn't know. No one talked about concussions. And, the coaches at the time would, if your bell was rung, you'd shake it off and you'd get back in there. It wasn't even a thought. But now we know that's not an appropriate way to handle things, because when you damage your brain, you're susceptible to even more damage the next time. And that's why we pull people out of the games now once they've been identified with a concussion.
Yeah, you had those ringing sensations, those flashing lights. Back in the day, you could stay. Now they take your helmet and you don't have a chance. Now, you've battled a lot of injuries over the last couple of years and missed a lot of time last year, and now you've retired. What was the bigger deciding factor? Recovering from the attrition of the game, or is head trauma one of them? Because I know when I did it, when I stepped away almost 10 years ago, it was for the physical side. And I don't feel like, trying to get ready to play again. It had nothing to do with head trauma. Which one was it for you?
It's a combination of the two. Certainly, I've had a number of physical injuries. My season was ended because of a shoulder injury, which requires surgery. And as athletes, we push through those things. We recover from that surgery. We get back to an even better state than before. And I've been through that cycle numerous times. And certainly when we talked the last time, I had just been cleared. I was ready to
remember.
Go back on the field. Yeah, I was ready to go back and play, and I was excited about it. But at the same time, I had also been thinking about the damage that will be done to my brain, the damage that's already been done. I've got concussions that have been documented, and certainly most all players, we all take hits to our head, so we've all got banged around. So weighing the benefits, the risk reward, also being concerned with my family. I have 3 young children, so they certainly played a factor, and also my wife. And I think the decision I made is wise, to no longer destroy my body and accumulate any brain damage from the sport of football. And hopefully the damage, if any, is not there or insignificant, but if it is, I'll do what I can to address it and move on. But I'm excited about the next steps.
Talking to Eugene Monroe, former Ravens offensive lineman, also former Virginia Cavalier of my own blood here. Now, you retired, and it kind of came on the heels of you coming out in support of medicinal marijuana. Now, the Ravens released you. They drafted I'll call it replacement, but whatever. They drafted someone at the position that you were in. Who knows if he was going to play if you had stayed there, but they released you. And then the search for the new team began. I know the Giants were certainly looking at you, and there's other guys who could have used, other teams that could have used your services. Did you feel that there was any level of blackballing involved after you were released?
Interestingly enough, I don't believe that there was. And certainly, I don't know. There very well may have been some of that out there, but almost immediately there was interest from other teams who needed a tackle to come in and offer some help. And, initially I weighed those options very seriously. I certainly was battling between continuing to play and choosing to retire. And I'm thankful that those teams did approach and offer me an opportunity to play, but ultimately, I had to respectfully decline and move on.
Now, what happens to the mission of getting marijuana taken off the banned substance list in the NFL. Do you still pursue this?
Not only do I pursue it on a continued basis, but now I believe there's more available time to actually do work on it. So I'm excited about that.
Now, and how do you are you going to go after some of the players, not in a negative way, but go after them to gain their support? Because I do feel like a lot of people believe what you believe, and I'm sure most of the current players believe what you believe. Is it hard to get them to take the same stance that you did while you were playing?
It's very hard to take that stance, especially looking at my situation. I can understand if someone says, "Hey, Eugene's been supporting this cannabis policy reform, and look what happened. He's been released now. Do I want to do the same?" And that was something that I thought about as I got started, but my health was far more important to me than being concerned with that. But for a lot of guys, they may not have that peace. They may not be where I was mentally when I made that decision. So I understand, but there is an overwhelming amount of support. Even upon being released, I've gotten messages and texts and calls from guys all around the league, actually many of whom I don't have a strong relationship with, and they're all supportive. So it's awesome to see that support within the players group. But, it's going to take more than just support from players to get this done. It's going to take research that proves that this is a healthier alternative, and research is something that I'm also very much involved with.
Yeah, of course, and it's obviously for pain. It's also for treatment of the frontal lobe. That's where you take all your shots. That's where a lot of people believe the initial effects of CTE begin. We're talking to Eugene Monroe, a former Baltimore Raven, and also an advocate for cannabinoids in the treatment of pain and issues as it pertains to NFL players. Now, some people could say, well, look what happened to Eugene, but it's almost circumstantial, right? Circumstantial. It's kind of a coincidence that's explained away. What's the support that you're getting from the NFLPA? I mean, forget the NFL for now, because obviously they have their stance. They live by the rules. But what's the NFLPA saying, especially when you see guys like Le'Veon Bell, who it looks like is going to get a 4-game suspension for missing a test, or Josh Gordon, who is now in front of the commissioner trying to beg to get back into the league for the same? What's the NFLPA stance on this?
The NFLPA is interested. They recognize that we have a huge problem in our league with our pain management practices, and it's a problem that exists in our league, but also widespread throughout our country, where people are prescribed opioids to manage pain. And in the NFL, there's a great deal of injury that coincides with a great deal of pain, and team docs prescribe opioids just like any other doctor. We know that these drugs are very dangerous. They're very addictive in nature, and cannabis is a healthier alternative.
Yeah, no, it sounds odd, but it is. I mean, think about Calvin Johnson, who, when he retired, he talked about, and I think a lot of guys have talked about this. You could, hey, doc, my ankle hurts. I need a shot. Or my back hurts. Give me some Toradol. All those opioids that we were talking about, they're easily accessible when there is an alternative that's probably healthier.
And now that we know that there's an alternative that's healthier, it's irresponsible to not pursue it, at least on a research basis, to see if there's any validity to this. There's certainly tons of anecdotal evidence, tons of doctors, tons of patients across our country that are experiencing benefits from this. And, of course, our former athletes who talked about the fact that many of them wouldn't have had such long careers if they didn't consume cannabis to manage their pain.
Yeah.
It's something very real that we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's not just anecdotal. I mean, it's kind of empirical in a lot of ways. Eugene Monroe joining us here. Now, you are a young man. You're 29 years old. You talk about having 3 young children. What is next for you? I think it's the question that every former athlete initially and with urgency kind of has to answer. What do you do next?
Immediately, my focus will be trying to determine my overall level of health. I'll be doing any extensive testing, imaging, scanning that I can do on my body, particularly also on my brain as well, to see if there's anything detectable. And I hope that there isn't. But if there is, the only way I'll know is to go through with this process, and also certainly continue trying to find ways to get the NFL to take a serious look at changing these policies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Where are you gonna live? Where are you gonna settle? Back in New Jersey? You gonna go down to Jacksonville where you originally drafted? Go back to the
You know,
Ville?
I love the Baltimore area. We've decided to make this area home. My wife's from here. She was born and raised in Maryland, and we've located a place. So we're going to build our home out here and set up shop.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm gonna have to give you a ring when I get down that way. My mom was in Lowell, Maryland, and obviously we have the UVA connection. So when Bronco Mendenhall, our new coach, starts calling, getting all us NFL alums to come back, hopefully we cross paths down that way.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to make it down to a few games this year now that I'll have the free time to do so.
I love that. Wahoo, wah, my friend. Good chat with you.
Wahoo.
Eugene Monroe, former Baltimore Raven, really good dude as well. And I think his mission is right on point.